Thank you so much for starting the recording. And I oversee programs and operations here at Coopération Canada. And so it's a pleasure to see you all today here. We're going to have a pretty engaging session together today where we want to talk to you about the plans we have for getting your feedback and knowing how satisfied you are with your membership. And so we've got some ideas for that my colleague MP will go through in a bit. But we also want to take this opportunity to actually get some feedback from you as well in this session. So we hope it'll be interesting. We hope it'll be engaging, and we really want you on board with these plans for us to be able to influence our work. So MP, veux-tu juste te présenter? Puis je vais juste, faut juste que je corrige mon écran, ça va me prendre une petite seconde.
Oui, je vais retrouver ma présentation. Donc, moi, mon nom, c'est MP Boisvert, MP pour Marie-Pierre, pas pour Member of Parliament. Et je suis nouvellement gestionnaire aux relations avec les membres et partenaires ici à Coopération Canada. Donc, avant d'être ici, en fait, pendant 5 ans, moi, j'ai été directrice générale d'un organisme qui s'appelle le Conseil québécois LGBT à Montréal, un réseau d'organismes comme Coopération Canada, mais pour les organismes LGBTQIA2S+, à travers le Québec. Donc, vous pouvez imaginer que j'ai connu à la fois des moments où les membres du conseil étaient très satisfaits de notre travail et d'autres moments où ils ne l'étaient pas du tout. Donc, c'est cette expérience que j'apporte à la table. Et je te redonne la parole, Maxime.
Parfait, merci. And I'm so sorry I wasn't on mute there in that period. Can I just get a thumbs up that you can see my Mentimeter screen share and that's all you're seeing? Is that good for everyone? Okay. So biggest.
We're seeing your entire screen, your computer screen.
You can see my notes as well for myself.
We can't see your notes.
No, perfect. So you aren't seeing my entire
browser.
screen.
We can see your browser, yeah.
I have fooled you correctly. All right. So before we get started, j'ai une question très simple pour vous tous aujourd'hui. J'aimerais vous demander d'aller sur le menti.com. Vous pouvez utiliser votre téléphone, comme ça vous suivez sur votre écran avec le Zoom, et vous pouvez répondre à mes questions sur votre téléphone. So, si vous allez menti.com et vous allez voir en haut de mon écran, il y a un code. On va mettre le code, si quelqu'un peut le mettre juste dans le chat pour que ce soit un petit copy-paste facile. Et si vous rentrez le code, vous allez pouvoir voter et me dire si vous avez déjà utilisé cet outil. So head to menti.com and enter that code at the top and let me know if you've used Mentimeter before. It's a very fun, simple tool that can try to mimic some kind of in-person engagement that we used to have. And so we will be looking to hear from you during this session. And so this is sort of my warm-up question for you to get you set up on the tool. So we'll just wait another moment to get a few more of you to be able to answer the poll. And I see 10 people have already found their way to the Mentimeter.
By the way, I think the staff can also answer these questions if they want.
Yes, the staff are welcome to jump into the Mentimeter for sure.
I'm sorry, Maxime, did you give us the code?
Yes, it's just at the top of the slide. So you'll see it'll say go menti.com and use the code, but someone's copied it into the chat, so it should make it easier to copy paste. It's very mini on that screen.
Too much sunshine where I'm sitting. Sorry about that.
If you are sitting outside, we are very pleased and jealous. All right, so and if you haven't answered this question, it's okay because you can answer the next one. So I will move ahead in the presentation. Let me make this full screen to make sure. I see what you're saying. Okay, 1 sec. I'm just going to have to move my own notes that I was sharing the screen with, and I will make this a little bit bigger so that everyone can see it a little bit better. And sorry, it might be messing up for a split second here. All right, are we good? People can see my screen a little bit bigger now, potentially? All right. Okay. Good, thanks for letting me know. All right, so what are we talking about today? Of course, you know we're a member organization, right? We exist to serve you as our members, but how are we actually doing? So this session for us is going to be the start of what we hope to be really a long-term not only goal, but part integrated way of us working, that is to measure member satisfaction and ensure that it's increasing over time. So why do we want to measure your satisfaction? Of course, we exist for you. Everything we do, we need to be doing it, keeping you in mind. But also as our sector evolves and changes and we have new members that get added to our midst, we really need to be able to keep in touch and get with the program as that shifts and changes, or we might become irrelevant. So that is what we're talking about today. Now, a simple question for you. On passe à une question assez facile. Je vous demanderai de répondre selon ce que vous savez de vos organisations. C'est pas un exercice scientifique si vous n'êtes pas sûr, mais j'espère que les catégories sont assez larges, que vous devriez avoir une idée de là où se retrouve votre organisation. Maintenant, pendant que vous répondez, j'aimerais, la raison que je pose cette question-là, c'est que la taille de nos organisations peut parfois définir certains de nos besoins. Pas tous nos besoins, on s'entend, mais une petite organisation peut compter sur nous pour des fonctions qui sont différentes qu'une grande organisation, par exemple. Alors, pour nous, comme un réseau d'organisations, c'est pas évident de pouvoir satisfaire à tous nos membres qui ont parfois des besoins très différents. Donc, d'avoir des outils pour vous demander ce que vous cherchez, ce que vous voulez, puis comment on met tous ces besoins-là en un ou en plusieurs, c'est important pour nous. Donc, il y a des différentes approches, il y a différents besoins dans notre réseau, puis on est au courant de ça. So I see many of you have been able to answer. So we have a very, I'm going to say, not a very diverse group necessarily with us today, in that we have an overrepresentation of the organizations under 25, but that might actually be reflective of our membership. And we're just finishing our membership renewal. So I will be curious, and MP and I will do some digging in to see kind of, you know, what kind of a spread of organizations do we have? And one of you is in that 200 and above. So thanks for being there with us. OK. Je passe une autre slide et après, je vais laisser MP vous parler. So as I was saying, different approaches, different needs. Improving our work, it's not an easy task. We need to be thinking about how we evolve as a network. With members like you that have different needs, priorities, are involved in different sectors, different projects, different topics. So as an umbrella organization, we need to know you very well and know who our members are, what you're doing and where you want to go. And then we need to make sure our projects, our advocacy work, our policy work, our events and more are going to align as closely as possible to your needs and to your dreams. So, je vais passer maintenant la parole à MP qui va vous parler de ses rêves à elle par rapport à la satisfaction de nos membres. Alors, MP, je te passe la parole.
Merci beaucoup, Maxime. Merci de m'avoir donné un moment pour, je sais pas, le cool down après, après l'Assemblée générale. Donc, comme je disais, moi, en fait, je ne viens pas du milieu de la coopération internationale et j'ai donc beaucoup à apprendre. Cette année, je pense que ça va être à la fois mon défi et ma chance. Ça me donnera l'occasion de vous poser beaucoup de questions sur ce que vous faites dans votre quotidien, mais je vais le faire sans présupposer et donc vous poser des questions avec candeur et sans crainte parce que les actions de Coopération Canada qui ont été faites jusqu'à maintenant, c'était sans moi. Alors, je ne vais pas me sentir personnellement impliquée. Mais donc, ces questions-là seront beaucoup autour de êtes-vous satisfait de notre travail? Satisfaction isn't a single moment. It needs to be an ongoing process where we continually check and double check if what we're doing is well done, if not perfect, according to you, our members. We know this has been done in the past. We found a satisfaction survey in 2015 and 2018, for example, but without consistent questions or ways to measure improvement year over year. So how are we going to do this? Well, this is where you come in. We have some ideas, but experience has told us our members need to be part of our projects at every step of the way. So this is actually a session to question our members on which questions to ask them. So here's our current idea. We want to run an annual member satisfaction exercise. built around a survey, but with also other things that I'm going to mention. Yes, another survey. This survey would allow us to get the data we need to compare our performances year after year and to help us develop our annual planning and priorities. Along with this survey, we want to conduct some sampling and interviews from our membership every year, especially this year, since I want to get to know each one of you individually and speak to you more in depth about your membership and how we can continue to deliver value to you as a member. Of course, this won't be the only way we collect from you. So as we already do, surveys after events, big and small, and many of our initiatives will allow us to get specific feedback while also gaining perspective on trends and needs in the sector. Our annual satisfaction exercise would touch on capturing the results of these individual initiatives throughout the year. So we'll get a broader idea, something like, okay, let's say 75% of our members are satisfied with our work as a whole, but we'll also be able to look into some details like, okay, 90% of our members have noted that our events lack accessibility. So as to address specific problem areas, if there are any. Usually there are some. So timing will be important here, but we'll get back to that in a few minutes. Alors, on a pensé à une méthode, une structure, ou ce qu'on pourrait appeler le quoi et le comment. Donc, la méthode serait un mix de deux choses. Une approche appréciative, ou ce qu'on appelle appreciative inquiry, pour le moyen et long terme, et une approche plutôt directe pour le court terme. Ça veut dire que la philosophie derrière nos questions, c'est qu'est-ce qu'on fait bien et qu'est-ce qu'on pourrait faire mieux. Donc, en pratique, on veut que vous ayez le plus d'occasions possible de nous parler de votre appréciation. Donc, il y aurait des questions après chaque événement et même après chaque micro-événement. Une évaluation intégrée au projet ponctuel et dans les comités, comme les working groups, par exemple. Il y aurait le sondage annuel, incluant des entrevues one-on-one. Et enfin, une consultation plus grande ou approfondie lorsqu'on va renouveler notre plan stratégique. Donc, ça peut être l'air de beaucoup, puis ça va être intense peut-être à l'interne, mais mon rêve, c'est que du point de vue des membres, de votre point de vue, donc ce soit assez seamless, c'est-à-dire tellement intégré que vous ayez même hâte de nous parler, de répondre à nos questions et de donner votre feedback. Donc, un point sur la transparence avant qu'on passe à la suite. On veut que vous connaissiez les résultats de nos sondages et que vous soyez impliqués dans leur constat. On va donc produire un rapport après le sondage annuel, mais surtout faire une présentation dès que possible dans un de nos événements annuels pour que vous ayez accès à toutes ces splendides données. Voilà. Donc, déjà, qu'est-ce que vous pensez de nos idées pour évaluer la satisfaction des membres? Vous pouvez tout de suite commencer à répondre à notre petit sondage ici. Peut-être que vous aimez, dites-nous si vous aimez l'idée d'un sondage annuel, peut-être que vous aimez les évaluations plus ponctuelles, que vous comprenez la valeur de cette initiative, que vous trouvez que c'est une bonne manière d'influencer notre travail. Peut-être que vous trouvez que plus de questions, ça veut dire plus de fun, ou qu'on devrait faire ça pas mal moins souvent aux 3-4 ans. So, go to the Menti and I see these now. Interesting.
So I should say that in our survey methodology, we'll probably be a little more neutral than we are in these questions we gave to you today, but we're just trying to trigger some debate and get your thinking and see if there's some disagreement that we need to have. So we've put, some controversial, not very controversial statements in there for you to react to. I see folks are starting to answer.
All right. Thank you.
So I'll just leave it up for another minute, maybe MP, pendant que les gens sont en train de s'habituer parce qu'il y a plusieurs, il y a 6 statements à répondre. On peut donner une autre minute.
Je vais répondre moi aussi.
Parfait, je pense que ça nous donne un bon nombre de réponses. Je vais passer à la prochaine. I'm going to click on the next one. It's your last chance. Oh, perfect. Someone got a submission in. 2 more. More questions, more fun seems to be dividing people significantly. So I enjoyed it. That's good.
Et je n'ai pas traduit cette diapositive, donc je vais le dire en français. Une question importante, c'est quoi le meilleur moment pour mesurer la satisfaction des membres? Est-ce que ce serait plutôt à la fin de l'été, plutôt au printemps, en mars, avril, peut-être plus en juin, avant l'Assemblée générale? Ou bien ce sont tous des options terribles et vous avez une meilleure idée. En toute candeur, j'ai dit à Maxime hier que c'était tous des terribles temps et que j'avais pas de meilleure idée.
And I should describe to you, this is a bit of a unique question type. So instead of choosing your favorites, you can actually weigh each of them. So if you only like one of them, you can put 100 points on that single option. If you like 2 of them equally, you can put 50-50. You can spread your points throughout all the answers if you feel indifferent. So you have 100 points to spend, choose them wisely. And I sure hope someone's going to put some points on, these are all terrible, just for the fun of that statement. Thank you to whoever put those points there.
It's difficult, I find, to put in points.
On va juste donner une autre minute pendant que les gens décident de leur calcul. This is a very scientific exercise, so I hope you're choosing very carefully. Parfait. Je pense qu'on peut passer à la prochaine, NP. I'll give another 10 seconds, let people answer.
I just want to say that these are interesting responses because it seems that people are fairly divided. We won't be able to please everyone in our typing. All right, let's move to the next. So we want to propose this timeline. We would launch, well, at least for this year, just for this year, because I'm starting in my new role, and it's important for me to get into this as quickly as possible. So we would be launching our survey, the survey itself, mid-late August, and then doing some one-on-one interviews in September, possibly throughout the fall. And finally, report at the end of November. Oh, maybe sooner, but I just think that the interviews will take some time, so we want to take that time. Yeah. So, do you have any other feedback on our plan for measuring member satisfaction? Est-ce que vous avez d'autres feedbacks sur ce plan? C'est le moment où vous pouvez en fait écrire directement dans right, I have this right, Maxime? Vous pouvez écrire vos commentaires et ils vont apparaître sur l'écran pour que tout le monde les voit. Et s'il y en a plusieurs, peut-être que vous allez voir du feedback, vous allez dire oui, ça me fait penser à ça, puis super, merci pour ça. C'est aussi quelque chose que j'aime beaucoup. sûr qu'il y a des questions qui vont quand même changer un petit peu d'année en année parce qu'il va y avoir peut-être des nouveaux projets qui vont arriver. Puis là, il va falloir mesurer votre satisfaction sur ça. Mais il y aura aussi des idées plus générales qui vont arriver, qui vont être toujours les mêmes. Toujours les...
And maybe in these comment boxes, if you have any tips for us of things to look out for, have you run similar exercises? I know many of our provincial councils might be doing something similar. So any best practices that you think we should keep in mind as we develop this exercise?
Pour répondre à une des questions, c'est lié en fait. Will the strategic plan guide priorities? It will, but we'll also determine our priorities according to the survey, at least partly. So one member says that we should do this before our annual planning exercise so that the annual is based on member feedback, and that makes a lot of sense. It's just that sometimes people are all doing their planning during that time, so it's not ideal to question members when they're super busy, but it's definitely something that we're going to keep in mind.
MP, I would have a question that would
Yes.
help guide my feedback here. I'm not quite sure the distinction between what you hope to do this summer and report in November, how that is distinct and different from the annual work that you want to do in terms of member satisfaction. Maybe I missed that.
I'm not sure I understand your question. Maybe Maxime.
Yeah, I can jump in. I think, Rick, what we'd like to do is for MP to run that annual exercise as soon as possible. So ideally starting that this summer, and that we adjust the timing afterwards to decide what's that best time period, because with the arrival of her role and her team, it'll really set them up as a membership team to really get that feedback as soon as possible. And we were lining the November date is the idea of our conference. So if that could be a good moment, and it might be that we need to do something internally to share that with our members, and maybe the conference won't be the right moment, but this idea of like taking the end of the summer and this fall to get our first real, setup of this consistent survey and get some feedback to feed into the work of the team for this coming year.
Got it. Thank you.
Yeah, thank you, Maxime. I'm getting some great feedback here about keeping surveys short, making sure that different staff give their inputs here. Also, having this mid-year or adjusting questions after individual events so that we can have, rolling feedback. That's really good.
So I'll just give a last warning if others are filling their answers out still before we move into the next one. I know there was a note there about aligning to, what did it say about the HRN? Potentially, I'll see it in a second, with other working group surveys. It's a great question. We will definitely take a look. And Anna, who's here with us in this session as our resident researcher, we are trying to steal some of her fabulous skills to help us. And what we've been doing is mapping out surveys of similar organizations. So Bond in the UK, Interaction in the US, who serve members similar to us, so that we can kind of get inspired from surveys that have existed for a long time in those organizations and see how we can use them. So certainly integrating across our own work in Cooperation Canada is going to be an important one. Okay.
Yeah, and I see the comment about members having trouble keeping up with our surveys. I completely hear that, and I want to make sure that this is not too overwhelming for us, for you. that's a good. It's also part of why we want to have some of these discussions over the phone or on Zoom or something where we can do both. You talk about your overarching wants and needs from Cooperation Canada, as well as the tiny little things that are important or that bug you.
And just there was a good comment around the anti-racism aspects of our work. And so internally as an organization, Cooperation Canada has also signed on to the anti-racism work. And so we have plenty of work to do as an organization ourselves. And that was obvious to us in filling out our baseline. And so internally, and I think I mentioned it in the AGM, but not everyone here would have been in the AGM, a big focus for us over the summer is a lot of organizational work in terms of updating many of our policies. And so part of that includes some of the anti-racism work. So thank you for that comment. Should we move into our next section, MP?
Yeah.
So thanks everyone. So that was really the kind of the touch point that we wanted to have with you around this intention and this plan. If you have thoughts after this, I know MP would really, really welcome them. And MP and Anna will be thinking through this survey, and we really take your points on not being over surveyed. And we hope that by bringing something annual that's predictable, that's really like a focused time to provide that feedback, and that you know how it's then being used to influence our work, will help to channel some of that feedback as well. So what we hope to do today with the rest of our time, and we started late and we won't need to go too much past our original time, keep this a bit shorter as we're a smaller group. We wanted to ask you a very short few questions. I think I have 5 questions in total. So there's 2 initial questions, and then I want us to do a very simple exercise, which is a start, stop, continue, which will be what should we start doing, what should we stop doing, and what should we continue doing. But first, help us here. When you think of Cooperation Canada, what are a few of the words that come to mind? And that might be different for each of us, because I think everyone makes use of our network in a different way. So curious to see your thoughts here. So this is a word cloud, so you should have 3 options to enter words.
Something seems to have muted you all of a sudden, Maxime, but I guess
That's okay. I was muting myself while others were filling in, and someone was trying to unmute me, but okay, so we've got a few responses coming in.
I love this. These are beautiful words.
Yeah, these are certainly really good ones, and some of them duplicating, but lots of unique ones as well that I think many would agree. We'll leave that open for another moment as people are filling this out. And in the next question, I'm going to ask you to pick now from a list of some of the things that we do, which is not including everything, and I'm going to make you pick only 2 that you value the most, so you can start to think of that. Give 1 more second. We've got some great replies in here. And I like that convening and network seem to really be coming to the most frequent ones. Okay, je passe à la prochaine. Okay, so here we've picked, we're really talking about almost more outputs than the outcomes that you've spoken to, I think, in our word cloud. But just again, to get you thinking about the next questions, where we're going to do some start, stop, continue, is what are 2 things, you can only pick 2, that you value the most about Cooperation Canada? And I know that here I didn't write, convening as its own outcome that we do. So again, it's a very output focused question. And then for fun, I'm testing a new feature of Mentimeter where we can actually disaggregate based on answers to your previous questions. So I was curious to see if we would see, depending on the size of organizations, if we see you valuing some of these services differently. So let's give everyone a chance to answer. Oh, we've already got 20 answers. You were all so fast in that one. Everyone was really quick. Oh, no, I see. It's because everyone's answered twice. So there's probably 14 people that have replied. Okay, but we're seeing a really good variety, and I did put job postings there just for fun. I know that our members value job postings a lot, but we understand that that is not the core reason that you are members of our network. Okay, so let's give everyone another few seconds. Someone has answered others, so please, I did put the option there because I know there's a lot of pieces missing, but if you want to unmute or if you want to tell us in the chat, what's that other piece that you value the most? It can also be a secret other. But if you do want to share it with us, we will accept your sharing in the chat. Okay, thanks everyone for sharing that. I think it's really interesting for us to kind of see that on when we force you to choose, what does that look like? And thank you, Janice. That's a really good one. For those that don't know, there is a CEO executive director's kind of lunch that happens virtually nowadays, but as a monthly session, and it's quite an opportunity for peer CEOs in our sector to be exchanging about challenges and about best practices. So that's nice. I think that's a great one, and you're getting some agreement there in the chat. So thanks for that. Okay, so we're getting into, this is our last exercise of the day. We're going to do a start, stop, continue. Alors, je vais vous demander de nous dire, est-ce qu'il y a quelque chose qu'on devrait commencer à faire dans notre travail comme Coopération Canada? Est-ce qu'il y a quelque chose qu'on devrait vraiment arrêter de faire? On n'a pas de business à faire ça. Et qu'est-ce qui est vraiment important qu'on continue de faire dans notre travail? Alors, les deux premières questions, ça va être des questions ouvertes, mais je vous présente les trois options pour que vous sachiez peut-être s'il y a quelque chose que vous avez en tête, dans quelle catégorie ça pourrait rentrer. OK. Now, this is maybe a blue sky thinking exercise. Et MP, je pense que c'est encore moi. Hein? Je veux pas... Non, c'est toi. Vas-y, nous présenter la question. Je parle beaucoup.
Je me rappelais même pas que c'était moi, fait que ça va. Est-ce qu'il y a des choses qu'on devrait commencer à faire? Je vous laisse répondre. Vous venez en plus d'assister à l'Assemblée générale. Peut-être que vous avez en tête toutes les choses qu'on a faites durant la dernière année, puis vous vous dites, ben, vous avez oublié ça, c'est vraiment choquant. Ou vous, je ne sais pas, vous vous dites, ah, ben, il me semble que vous auriez pu aussi ajouter ça à votre liste de choses à faire. We're just gonna wait for some answers to come in. I love what we're already seeing, more work on decolonization and reconciliation. I completely agree with that. I don't know if I'm supposed to give my opinion in this, but I will. Town halls with ministers, especially for the upcoming elections, I imagine. Working on electoral reform, as it would help us to be more effective on social justice issues. Super interesting. And we're also seeing a comment saying that we should get regular member feedback. So that's what we're going to do. And start to have a role on Canadian NGOs in a localized world of international development. Super interesting. Resourcing on peace building, look at how best to intersect FIAP, decolonization, anti-racism work, continue virtual events, devoting a more important part of our efforts towards advocating, for, thank you, specific policy changes at GAC, and that would enable concrete change in how aid is conceived and delivered. Yeah. Not start, but continue online. Yes, we have a continue question, but very good as we will move on. Continuing engagement as a core approach, online engagement specifically, and I think that makes a lot of sense since we're pan-Canadian organization. might have forgotten some, but we can continue.
And we'll have access to these results. So thank you all for submitting them, and we'll be digesting those as part of this same exercise that we've been talking about. So we have 2 questions left. I know it is 4 o'clock. I know we did start a bit later. So if folks have time to stay for those 2 questions where we get to our stop and to our continue, and any other feedback that you might have. If you have to step away, of course, feel free to enter stuff in the chat as well, but I will jump us to the next question. So are there things we should stop doing? And I didn't ask Richard to play the music in this session while everyone is typing.
If I was on my computer, I would, but again, you can think here about what we said in the AGM and all of that.
Maybe in the meantime, I can share, as an organization and as a team, we've been trying to take a really deliberate approach to our work planning in looking at what are the most important things that we do and what are the pieces that are the most valued by our members, because trying to do everything isn't good for our team and isn't good for our members, because it also means that there's too much for you to have to engage in. And so you might remember last year we had, I think, was it 9 or 14 virtual sessions from the fall to, I think, February. And that was too much. That was too much for us and for our team. And I wonder if it was too much for you as members in terms of your participation, in having to feel like you were missing out on some of those events. And thank you to those that had stepped off, but I think they're already gone. So I'm liking the comments that are coming in. And it's good for us as a team to see this and to hear it as well, because, and I will say, since being here in January, we have a very ambitious team, and the team is always looking to deliver more and better, and forcing some of that slowdown and that stop is really challenging, right? Because people are really keen to give you everything they can, and so this is good to hear and to have it. And there's a great comment there about the diversity of our nos fuseaux horaires, c'est quoi le mot que je cherche, of our time zones. And then saying the word lunch is not the same wherever we're sitting. And that's a very good point. And so we should make sure that that's more reflective of the new virtual environments that we are all working in. This is really helpful. I really appreciate seeing these comments in here. I'm going to give maybe another 10 seconds if someone is still typing out an answer. I can wait a little longer as well, but just want to make sure if anyone's in the middle of a response that you get it in.
I also want to mention, as someone who came from another network, that this is really great to see, because I think it means that networks have a kind of plateau maybe of things that they can and should do, which means that members are very satisfied with what we're doing, and that we should do a little less and do the things that we're doing better. And I just love these comments. They give me hope.
Some good reflections in here as well about kind of the future of our workplace or our workspace as Cooperation Canada, and it's not something that we've sat down yet to have reflections on in terms of what does this kind of new virtual hybrid world mean for us into the future? What does it mean about where our staff should or shouldn't be based? And so as part of this policy review, these are big questions for us as an organization that we do want to start to reflect on and tackle. And so I appreciate the feedback that we're getting here. Okay, if it's all right with everyone, I'm going to go into the next question. Hopefully, if you're still typing, you can still submit, excuse me, into this one. And so our last question, so again, we're just using the same categories as the previous, more output-y, focused on some of the services that you might be receiving from us. So you may also use the other option to tell us what those missing pieces are, what we should continue to do. And we know there's a lot, but give us your sense. What are some of the most important things that we should continue doing? I realize my question is worded a bit poorly. So, you know, how much do you agree or disagree that these are some important things that we should continue to do?
I've got a question again. PSEA and anti-racism, the closest I could see for them here would be the working groups. Would that be?
You're very right, Rick, that I haven't included them here, and those are separate initiatives. So I sort of think I was referencing more some of our core work, which is now changing. So it's a really good point, and so we should consider that in the other. The Digna work, because it's sort of its own project, it kind of stands on its own, but I haven't featured that as well in this survey. So I think it's a really good point. So feel free to vote into the other, and we're making notes about that work. For the anti-racism work as well, we are looking to have that be funded and be able to be hosted in Cooperation Canada, but it does need sort of, we have a lot of staff doing anything anti-racism has been on the side of their desks right now. And so if we want to grow that part and the services, so we're putting in a proposal to Global Affairs that has moved from concept note to full proposal. And so we hope that that becomes its own piece that gets housed here as well. But yes, it's a huge omission from this list. Okay, so we've got some responses and some folks had to drop off. Thank you for your replies on this. Again, just kind of getting us thinking of this as we enter this review of member satisfaction. I am going to switch to the next slide just because it's an open-ended slide. If there's any other feedback that we haven't collected from you yet today, if you have other thoughts, we don't need to do that as a question and answer. Sorry, I had set it up as a question and answer. That's probably not appropriate for our small group right now. So if you have any other feedback, any other thoughts, please, you can speak up now. You can send us a note later on. I think the whole team would be really receptive to that as we embark on this satisfaction journey. And I think the key piece for us will be to communicate this back to members and what we're doing with your feedback, so that you really see the impact of that feedback year over year. Mais MP, je peux te laisser un peu de place si tu veux pour dire quelques derniers mots.
Ben, je veux juste faire écho à ce que tu as dit là. C'est pas assez fort de dire qu'on a besoin de votre feedback. Plutôt, il est essentiel et c'est ce qui donne du sens à ce qu'on fait. Moi, je suis aussi vraiment heureuse de pouvoir le faire, c'est-à-dire que dans l'organisme où j'étais, on était trop peu de staff pour être capable de dédier du temps puis de l'énergie à ça parce que ça en prend. Ce qui veut dire que des fois, on était un peu à côté de la traque, puis c'est vraiment quelque chose donc que je veux pas répéter ici, puis m'assurer que toute notre équipe sait et comprend qu'est-ce que les membres veulent et ont besoin et à quel point on répond à ces besoins-là, tout en étant réaliste, disons, sur qu'est-ce qu'on peut faire. Fait que, ouais, c'est ça. Je veux juste remercier tout le monde pour votre participation aujourd'hui. Je sais que tout le monde était sans doute assez fatigué, moi compris, après l'Assemblée générale, mais ça a été vraiment le fun de voir vos réponses. Puis je pense que ça veut dire que les réponses qu'on va recueillir aussi dans le sondage vont être super intéressantes puis vraiment utiles pour nous, puis pour vous, ultimement. Fait que je veux juste vous dire merci. Voilà.
Et nous voilà. We started 30 minutes late, but we only ended 10 minutes late. So I hope you have all had a great day and that you'll join us for the sessions in the forum tomorrow. If we're not at too much of a pace, even in our reduced forum, but we'll certainly take this great feedback and just thank you all for your time today.
Thank you. Et merci pour le magnifique GIF, Maxime, de la fin.
Anytime.